everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Wealthy Boss Show. Today we're talking about how to sleep your way to the top. What? Okay, in case this feels a little out of character coming from yours truly, I mean this in the most literal sense possible. Now, I know in our society, we talk about how you can sleep when you're dead and hustle, and we talk about pushing through to make sure that we're just grinding it out and achieving our dreams and preserving a rest for a later date. But sleeping is actually one of the best investments you can make for your business and your body. I love dispelling the myth that whatever you do for yourself is actually going to be a detriment to your business. That's simply not true. That's the myth that I love busting, and we're going to do it here today. When you invest in the right amount of sleep and the right kind of sleep, which is also a very important part of the equation, you are going to be so much better in all areas of life. You will like life more. You will enjoy being alive. People around you will enjoy being around you. And your business and your body will both be the better for it. Okay, we have a lot to cover today, so let's not waste any more time. I want to dive in by first looking at the way that getting the proper amount and kinds of sleep has an effect on your body. So oftentimes when we think of getting in shape and getting back on track with our fitness and our health, we don't really prioritize sleep. Sleep is kind of the last thing we think about. In fact, if anything, we're probably trying to get up earlier so we can get those workouts in. So it might come as a bit of a surprise to you to know that one of the best things you can do for your body and even your physical shape. So obviously when we talk about your body, we mean all sorts of things, the way it functions, the way it feels, but even the way it looks is impacted by the quality and quantity of sleep that you get. In fact, those who got 8 hours of sleep a night lost far more weight than those who were going on 5 hours or less, according to the Canadian Medical Association in a study that they did, even though their diet and their exercise habits were identical. So let me just say that again, in case you weren't listening the first time. For people who have been studied that have identical diet and exercise habits, but one group sleeps more and one group sleeps less, the group that sleeps more loses far more weight. Studies show it. And certainly, to me, that's good news to go to bed a little bit earlier or even sleep in a little bit later those days that you feel like you need it. Now, I have some personal experience with this as well. About 18 months ago or so, I was going through a totally stressful period in my life. I was working a day job that I really, really didn't like and had some really mean-spirited people that I had to deal with, but I couldn't seem to find a way out of it. I was trying to run this business. My husband and I were going through the adoption process. Well, we still are actually, but there was a lot more paperwork to be done in those early months, a lot of doctor's visits. And I remember going to the doctor again because they had to do blood work for like the third or fourth time, which was crazy. But at this third or fourth visit to my doctor, I stepped on the scale and I was just, you know that feeling when it doesn't go in your favor when you step on the scale? And my jeans felt uncomfortable when it always felt comfortable before, just suddenly was feeling a little bit snug. And I felt so frustrated because, hello, I teach fitness, I teach health, and I was doing all the quote unquote right things. I was exercising, I was eating the way I always had. So why was my body feeling different? Well, what it came down to for me was that I was going through a period of a lot of stress. And because of that, my body actually needed more sleep than usual to recover from that stress, to fight inflammation, and to recover my body's sense of homeostasis, to keep it in balance. So I tried an experiment. It was during a time that I knew I could kind of get away with it. This isn't practical to do every single day, maybe, but I knew that I wanted to make this a priority. So I accepted the fact that I wasn't going to be quite as productive during those 3 days and made sure that I could arrange my schedule for it. So for I guess I should say 3 nights in a row, I went to bed a full 90 minutes earlier. Now, I was already going to bed like at a modest time, but I decided to go to bed even earlier because the stress load that my body was under and that my psyche was under required even more rest to rejuvenate and recover and restore my body's processes. And what do you know? After 3 nights of just getting an extra hour and a half of sleep, my jeans fit. I had that flat tummy that I was used to, and it really drove home the importance to me of making sure that you're getting the proper rest. Now, when we're going through a lot of stress, as I mentioned, that's another thing to be aware of. You might actually need more sleep. Now, of course, we don't want to spend all day in bed. There's such a thing as too much sleep, which can make you groggy. But if you are going through an acutely stressful period of time, which is fairly typical for the average entrepreneur, you're definitely going to have those ebbs and flows and those spikes of incredibly stressful times. You might also just need to be aware that your normal sleep habits that maybe sustained you in the past when you had less stress in your life maybe aren't going to fill the bill this time. So just know you might need a little bit extra sleep, or you might need better sleep, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So what gives? Why this connection between sleep and our waistline? There's actually several things that play. So first of all, sleep deprivation screws up your hunger and your satiety hormones. So we have a couple of hormones in our body that are primarily responsible for how hungry we are and what we're craving and how much we're craving and when. So these hormones, ghrelin and leptin, are responsible for keeping our bodies kind of in check. Now, when we're not getting enough sleep, then they tend to go haywire. So your body produces more ghrelin, which makes you hungrier than you would actually be if you had been adequately rested. And unfortunately, it also tamps down the production of leptin, which is your body's satiety hormone. It indicates to your brain when you start to feel full. So you can imagine how dangerous that can be when the signal that's supposed to kick on saying, hey, body, I'm full, that's good, that's enough, never kicks on. We just eat and eat and eat. So that's one reason that getting enough sleep will help combat the proper appetite and normal appetite that actually tells you the right signals and doesn't lie to you like those hormones tend to do when we haven't had enough rest. Now, that's not the only reason, though, that sleep impacts your waistline. As I mentioned before, with my own experience, I was actually doing all those things. I had been in enough of a pattern that eating well, eating healthfully was already a normal routine for me, a normal habit. So there are some other things. It leads to inflammation and cortisol. Sleep deprivation is a huge stressor on your body. Now, whenever your body is in overdrive on cortisol, which is an incredibly important and sophisticated hormone in your body, but if we have too much of it, and our body is constantly in a state of a sympathetic state where we are in fight or flight, then the body responds by actually storing fat, conserves resources. And it does this, unfortunately, by holding on to fat, especially in the midsection. Oh, that's so not fair. I know. But that's what your body does. It's actually a natural response as a heritage of many years and millennia of needing more resources when times were tough. So in caveman days, any type of stress typically indicated some type of physical stress where you needed to have energy and fat in your bones to make sure that you were going to survive. Now, bless our hearts, our bodies haven't quite caught up to the modern times. So just understanding that this is part of what's going on can help you, I think, have a little bit less stress about it, because when you're eating healthy and you're exercising, but you're stressed and you're still gaining weight, that in and of itself is a stressor, and that leads to a major stress cycle, which is not a merry-go-round any of us care to be on. So just understanding that your body will naturally hold on to resources, i.e. hold on to fat, when you're going through a stressful period can be helpful to understand. And keep in mind then that being sleep deprived actually is a form of stress to your body. Now, there's some other things that play as well that can, of course, interact with our appetites and our metabolism. It actually does deactivate, and sleep deprivation, that is, deactivates activity in the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is that area of your brain that's responsible for making good decisions, for thinking about long-term consequences of your behavior, for thinking strategically. And when it's not functioning well, we tend to make poorer choices. So whether that's reaching for the ice cream instead of the rice and beans, or whether that's just skipping your workout, even though you know that's going to be the best thing for you, or drinking a ton of diet soda all day instead of water. Our long-term thinking and ability to delay gratification for longer term benefits goes out the window when we're sleep deprived. And that's largely in part due to that deactivity in the prefrontal cortex. At the same time, sleep deprivation serves up a double whammy by increasing the activity in the amygdala, which is our instinctual portion of the brain that responds to immediate gratification and emotionally based decisions, which is sometimes important, but not so much when you're trying to make healthy habits a regular part of your life. So all of those things can increase your inflammation, your appetite, and all of those unhealthy habits that lead to a larger waistline than you might like. Now, the final nail in the coffin of sleep deprivation when it comes to your body weight is that gains from exercise that you might do during the day really only happen at night when you're at rest. And by gains, let me be clear, I don't mean weight gain. I mean, the benefits, the actual outcome, the actual good work of exercise happens when we're at sleep. It's when sleep occurs that our tissues are being restored, that our muscle fibers are recovering from any micro tears that have happened during that exercise. And as a result, building up stronger muscles, which in turn leads to better metabolism. So the more we sleep, the more benefits we're getting from our workouts during the day, and the greater our metabolism is the other 23 and a half hours a day that we are not exercising. So if I haven't convinced you yet, sleep is, and very well may be, the magical missing ingredient that is missing from your weight loss regimen. Okay, I'm ready to take a nap, are you? Okay, so there's this other element that we want to cover today as well when it comes to getting enough sleep, because I know you're going to have the best intentions of doing all these things and creating these positive, healthy habits and going to bed on time and creating these wind down rituals for your body. But there's going to be this little bit of tension and conflict going on within you because there's this other thing that you care about a whole lot in your life, and that's called your business. Yes, I know we tend to put our own care off because we want to get ahead in our business. And that's why I'm actually going to spend just as much time speaking about how sleep impacts your business and your brain function and how much you get done in a day, because I know that's probably going to be the thing that holds you back from instilling these healthy habits in the first place. Am I right? Yeah, I got your number. Okay, so let's talk about how getting the proper sleep actually makes you better at business. It is not in conflict with the time that you spend investing in your business. Let me assure you, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So the prefrontal cortex comes to the rescue here again. Just to reiterate, when we are well rested, we are increasing the activity in our brain's region called the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex, as we mentioned before, is a more evolved portion of the brain that is what's lighting up when we are doing things like strategic thinking. It's the part of the brain that helps us make layered decisions where we have to consider multiple outcomes, multiple factors, and variables. It's the portion of our brain responsible for willpower and self-control and batching those social media posts when we'd rather just be scrolling on Instagram. So when we are more strategic in our way of thinking, when we can think through the domino effect of what our decisions will end up impacting down the road when we can think in more than stream of consciousness style, but actually be planning and controlling our outcomes for the future, then we are so much better in business. You've probably all had those days when you were just fried, you were so tired, and maybe you were stressed to boot, and you had those work projects you really wanted to get done, but instead you just kind of found yourself reading whatever articles popped up on Pinterest, or maybe just responding to emails, even though you knew emails were probably not your highest value activity that day. So making sure that our brains are in top functioning order when it comes to strategic thinking, impulse control, discipline, and multi-layered thinking can only lead to good things in your business. After all, you are your business's CEO. You're not a frontline worker just doing what you're being told to do. You have to make critical decisions that are going to impact your bottom line, that are going to impact everyone around you. It's going to impact your customers or your clients, your staff members. If you have a team, you're going to be much better at training them and dividing up the work and delegating and all those things that are going to make you a better CEO in your company. Another positive benefit that sleep has on your business is that it actually improves your body's ability to retain information. Now, I think that's fascinating. So studies show that the learning process, whether we're learning a new skill or memorizing information, whether that's a new marketing technique that you need to drill down and fully understand, it actually doesn't just happen in the moment that you take in that information. The learning process, what psychologists will often refer to as the encoding process, actually takes up to 24 hours. Now, the biggest differential in someone's ability to remember information that they learned a day ago and then commit that to long-term memory is how much sleep they have or have not had. So getting a good night's sleep really solidifies the information that you took in that day and starts to turn that into more of a long-term memory process that you can retrieve later. So if you have a lot of just knowledge that you have to take in, again, whether that's a marketing campaign or whether that's remembering what you have to do, even, you're going to have actually a better memory when you are regularly sleeping. And that tends to take the most effect when you get a good night's sleep the night after you learn or practice a new skill or behavior. Okay, that's not all that sleep does to help you be a better business owner. It also improves your concentration and focus. Super important. As entrepreneurs, we often tend to wear a lot of different hats. We have a lot of different ground to cover in any given day. And being able to stay focused on those things that are most important to our business is going to make us more productive. It's going to save us time. It's going to lead to more income because we are focused on the right things. And being in a better brain state because we've had a good night's sleep is going to make that ability to concentrate and focus easier and sharper. It also ensures proper reaction time, whether mental or physical. So being able to respond appropriately when problems arise in your business, to be able to troubleshoot, to be able to handle things that go wrong, to be able to react to scenarios when your staff comes at you with a huge crisis on their hands, and you have to be able to respond to it. You're going to have better reaction time when you have had a proper night's sleep. In fact, driving while sleepy has been shown in many studies to be equated with a blood alcohol content of 0.8%, which in most states is over the legal limit. So seriously, driving, I don't know if you have to drive for your work, but if driving while under the influence of sleep deprivation is more dangerous than driving under the influence of alcohol, think what that's doing to your business and every other thing that's important to you in your life. So it also synthesizes information overnight. So much like we spoke about a moment ago, in that sleep helps you encode new information so that you can remember it later, it also helps connect the dots between information that you take in, synthesizing that information so that you're more creative when you wake up, and you can actually put all those pieces of random information that you've taken together and put them forward into maybe a more cohesive solution if you're trying to troubleshoot something in your business. Or maybe it just leads to those aha moments, those eureka moments that you have that take you to the next level in your business. Okay, so we have covered a lot of different things. We've talked about a lot of different reasons that you might want to make sleep more of a priority in your life. Let's now talk about the how. There's a lot of things that we can do to get better sleep. And I have a little bit of good news here for you. It does not all have to do with going to bed earlier. Now, I still want you to prioritize going to bed earlier if you are not getting the right amount of sleep. But there are some easy tweaks that you can make that don't actually require any extra time. So if you're really feeling stressed out by the idea of trying to make sleep a priority, start with these things because they're not actually going to take more time. And then we'll also chat about some resources to just help prime you to create that cultivation of a bedtime routine to start to value sleep on a deeper basis so that you can start to get the right amount of sleep that you need as well. So as I mentioned, there's a difference between the quality and quantity of sleep that you get. If you're getting 8 hours a night, but it's not actually good quality sleep, then you're really missing out on the benefits of exercise. You're really missing out on the benefits of sleep that could be impacting you and helping you up-level your game. So here are some very practical strategies for improving the quality of your sleep. Again, these don't even take any extra time, so it's just a no-brainer to start to implement them. First of all, I want you to remove all forms of artificial light in your bedroom. Now, this might be a multi-pronged approach. This means, first of all, if you have a TV in your room, just don't. It ruins your love life. It ruins your sleep. It ruins your body's melatonin levels by falling asleep, looking at that blue light right before you drift off to bed. And if you have any type of VCR technology plugged in, even those tiny little lights, those little green glowing lights, or that red light that's powered off, actually can be enough to interfere with your body's sleep cycles so that you're not actually getting into that fully restorative sleep. So nix the TV, nix the technology. Don't fall asleep with your iPad. For the love of God, don't put your cell phone on your nightstand. I promise if you put it in the bathroom or the room next to you that you'll hear it if it rings. You don't want those emissions. First of all, the radiation, which is a whole nother story. You don't want that by your head for any amount of time that you don't need it. But secondly, if a text message pops up in the middle of the night, you get that little glow from the light. Even if you don't wake up from it, it can wreck the proper quality of your sleep. Now, what gets a little bit more tricky is trying to remove light sources from outside. So if you live in the city, most of us do, or suburbs with some type of street light, street lamp, cars maybe driving by, shining their headlights in, this can be a little bit trickier. So I recommend that you invest in some blackout curtains. It's not going to be that much of an investment. They're like, $60? And it's going to have such a payoff in the quality of sleep that you get. Again, these types of things impact your sleep whether you're consciously waking up from them or not. So you'd be surprised what this simple swap can do for your sleep quality. Now, when you're traveling, I recommend a couple of things. I recommend yanking that clock out of the wall that's always on the nightstand with those ginormous blinking numbers. So go ahead and turn that bad boy off. I also recommend getting a good sleep mask that can help block out those light rays from seeping in, because whenever you're in hotels, there's just so much light. There's light that shines in from the hallways. There's light that shines in through the parking lot, through the curtains. So I just recommend if you're sleeping and you can't necessarily control, blackout curtains and the level of light that's coming in from your surroundings, I recommend getting a good sleeping mask, and they just cost like $10. My favorite are from Bed Bath & Beyond. I've tried 2 of theirs. I'll look them up and I'll put them in the show notes, which brands that I like. So a $10 sleep mask can instantly improve your sleep quality if you're traveling if you're on the road, if you're attending conferences a lot. So that's a great way to instantly help the quality of your sleep. Now, here's another hack. I want you to make every effort to be asleep during the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Now, I know I said these first few tips were going to relate to the quality of your sleep, not the quantity, but hear me out. If you have a ton of work that you have to get done and you're debating whether or not to stay up later to finish it or get up earlier to get the work done, you're much better off going to bed earlier and then getting up earlier. Here's why. There's something about the body's circadian rhythms that really hit a sweet spot when sleeping during the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Your body's most restorative hormones and deeply anabolic processes are going to happen during sleep. So we want to make sure, especially between the hour when we're sleeping during the hours of 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So we want to make sure that we're prioritizing that sleep window so that even if we can't get the proper amount of sleep that we need, we're actually timing it so that it's going to be the most beneficial during those hours that we do get. Now, hopefully you're sleeping more than 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., but if you can at least prioritize that window so that your sleep cycles fall between those hours, you're going to be doing your body and your brain a favor. Okay, so those are some hacks that can help you get better quality sleep. Now, let's up level a bit and talk about how to start to prioritize getting more sleep. Well, I'm a big believer in practicing an actual bedtimes. Bedtimes are not just for kiddos, they are for adults as well. So establish what time is a good bedtime for you. You need to have a goal. When does your body know it's time to wind down? If we can establish a fairly consistent bedtime, then one, that triggers our own minds to start to shut down and to expect sleep and to get in the habit of turning work off. But two, your body's also going to start to set itself to that cadence where it starts to get sleepy that time of night. And you don't have to go cold turkey. If you're going to bed now at 1 a.m. every night, don't start by going to bed at 9 p.m. Maybe stair step your way. Maybe you start going to bed an hour earlier or 30 minutes earlier. And once that becomes easy, you start training your body to go to sleep another 30 minutes earlier until you're at that point where you feel like is your ideal. I'm also a big fan of either creating alarms to do this in the meantime or setting very distinct wind down rituals, or both. So maybe your wind down ritual is that you read a book. Maybe it's that you make some tea and sit on the couch and talk with your husband. Maybe you have a special wind down routine with your kids that you can actually use as your own indicators to start to wind down for bed. Now, there are a few things that you want to avoid right before bed that could interfere with going to sleep, because you don't want to get in between the sheets and then suddenly have your eyes pop wide open and realize that you're wide awake. One of these things is screen time. Now, I know that's hard because a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we get some of our best work done in the evening hours. And I know Netflix is real. Sometimes we just need a break as well. And that's fine, but you want to make sure that that last 30 to 60 minutes is screen free. And if you absolutely have to be on your screen right before bed, I recommend investing in a pair of blue light glasses. So these glasses are actually orange in color and they cut the blue light emissions that tend to wreck our melatonin levels. So this can be kind of a training wheel or maybe a little bit of a crutch for you if you're trying to cut down on your screen time. But ultimately, because of some of the psychological effects of not having your mind racing by watching the constant stimulation from screens, I recommend that you try to cut out screen time altogether for that last 30 to 60 minutes of your day. Now, you also want to avoid alcohol right before bed. I'm not anti-alcohol. I definitely enjoy my glass of wine at night, but if you want to time it earlier in the evening, it's going to help you get to sleep better, because even though alcohol can tend to make you sleepy, it can also tend to throw your circadian rhythms off track so that you wake up in the middle of the night. So just timing that a little bit earlier in the evening can help you get better sleep and not lay awake as soon as you drifted off to sleep. You don't want to pop those eyes right back open. Some other helps to make sure that you are drifting off to sleep can be getting exposure to sunlight early in the day. So when our bodies are exposed to sunshine in the early morning hours or even through the mid-morning hours, that primes our body to actually fall asleep when we get into bed at night, because it's working with our circadian rhythms. It is signaling that evening time to start to ramp up the production of melatonin, which is your body's natural sleep-inducing hormone. Now, if you still find yourself wired at night and you just can't sleep, you might want to ask your doctor whether it's safe for you to try a natural melatonin supplement. And you might also want to get a little bit of coaching on what dosage is right for you. I take a large dosage, but this is not appropriate for everyone. I don't like to advise on supplements because they are not FDA regulated. So I do recommend that you check with your doctor first, make sure you're not taking anything that would be contraindicated by melatonin, even though it is a natural substance that your body makes. Whenever we take it, as an external type of supplement, we just want to make sure that we're doing it carefully. Now, one word of caution: if you do take a melatonin supplement at night, please understand that these are really only meant to be utilized as a bit of a quick fix and not in a long-term capacity. So if we take melatonin supplements every single night for the rest of our lives, it can actually signal our bodies that we don't need to make our own. So we can kind of become, unfortunately, this vicious cycle where we have to depend on that supplement because our body's not actually producing it naturally. Some natural melatonin producers are actually found in tart cherry juice. So if you sip a little bit of tart cherry juice before you go to bed, that actually is very high in natural melatonin that will work a little bit more of an integrated fashion with your body to help signal that it is time to go Betty bye. Now, we talked a little bit about wind down rituals, and I think that is one of the best things that you can do to start to value sleep. So we just want to start to become more mindful of even the way that we talk about sleep and the way that we think about it. We want to value it. Sleep is one of the best investments we can make in our body and in our business, and it is completely free. So be grateful for the chance that you get to sleep in a nice warm bed. Be grateful for all those wonderful things that your body does for you and that your brain does for you while you sleep, so that you can show up next time and be the absolute best that you can be in your business, and that you can enjoy the life that you're working so darn hard to create. Wow, we have covered so much. We've talked about how sleep can benefit not only your body, but also your business, and some practical ways for improving both the quality and eventually, ideally, the quantity of your sleep. I'd love to learn which of these strategies you start to implement and how you notice that they benefit your body or your business. So don't forget to tell me how these strategies go for you. That's all for now. I can't wait to see you next time. Thank you so much for listening.